We're just going to get straight into it. Universal accountability. Now, understand that for you to exist, there must have been ancestors that came before you. Now, these ancestors never had it comfortable like you. They did not live in a continuation, a state of constant comfort. These ancestors have suffered. And so when we put it into perspective on a universal scale, your ancestors have suffered for generations for you to be born as a subordinate slave, porn addict, gay, piece of shit, bitch. And so what we need to do is truly reflect on the individual you became, and then we have to understand all the suffering that was backed by your existence. And so you have to understand that to be born into the world, and to refuse elevation, and to refuse growth, and to refuse being better as an individual, even though your ancestors have suffered for lineages and generations, and you're the accumulation of, and you have been transferred through DNA. Their suffering is in your DNA. And with that, you chose to be a porn addict slave. You never went after your goals. You never quit the addictions. You never did what was going to benefit and elevate you. All you did was hesitate on your goals and used Pornhub as an escape for that bitch you need to confront. And so understand that we are going to put it in perspective. We are going to raise the mirror. And when we look at the mirror, we now see the shadow of the abyss that you ruminate and reflect into the universe. And before we even get into the accountability of your actions, we have to understand the responsibility that your existence itself holds. And so when we look at who you are so selfish, you have never actually thought about the generations before you that have suffered and built and sustained the world to the level and degree of efficiency for you to come into existence and be that comfortable. And so when you're comfortable, you choose to stagnate, you choose to procrastinate, you choose to ripple through time the mediocrity that is seeping from your soul as you diverge it through your will through the negative habits. And so what we have to understand is before we even reflect upon the actions, again, we must look at the suffering, the growth, that the pushing through the dirt that lineages had to suffer through for you to be existing at the degree that you do, at the efficiency, at the sufficiency. And here you are being a bitch, porn addict, loser, fuck, jealous, gay, bitch. And so what you have to do is look in the fucking mirror and ask yourself, if my entire ancestry was right in front of me and I said, this is what the fuck I am, would they be proud? And then we come to the realization and the conclusion that you are a waste of space and a waste of life. And so before we can even integrate higher qualities into self and become a remarkable individual by pursuing and excelling beyond, by becoming excellent through the way that we conduct ourselves and the way we behave, you wonder why you feel like shit. You wonder why you exist within a reality of mediocrity. Well, you have to understand that the way you behave is what you will have. And so the reason you have these negative emotions is because the way you behave reflects it. And so before we even, again, talk about the actions you take and the steps you don't take, we have to truly understand and comprehend the degree of the suffering that people have went through for you to be a barren fuck. You're supposed to perpetuate the development and evolution of your lineage. And you refuse to look in the mirror and see what you became because you yourself would have to now confront what is dominating you in your mind in the realm of the invisible. You see, most of you guys are materialists. If you can't see it in front of you, it must not be there. But what we have to understand is that the way you behave is a reflection of your internal state. And so the way you guys behave is sort of like a animalistic, instinctual, compulsive freak. And so most of you guys sit there every night and you jerk off the porn. You guys never look in the mirror and say, I'm addicted. You see, you guys, every day you wake up, you hit the vape, you smoke the weed, you escape. But you never actually look in the mirror and say, I need to do some shit to change. And so behind that saying, I need to do some shit to change, is the smile your ancestors will have for you. It's the smile that God would have for you. To realize that you are so pathetic, you are such a loser, that you stagnate in Pornhub, that you stagnate in addiction, and then you reflect this through your mediocre behavior. And so what we have to understand is that what you think you will become, and the accumulations of your thought is going to reflect into actual action. What you think is going to reflect in your habits. What is contained in your mind is going to be pertained to the way you conduct yourself. And so my point is to reflect on your internal qualities, because your internal world is so empty, you fill it with sensation. You have to understand that the external world will never better your internal world. The internal world is simply going to be sustained by the overcoming of the negatives. But as the individual who inhabits this vessel and is now ruminating the space in the universe and occupying it with their mediocrity, you allow that to, you refuse and you allow the negative habits to perpetuate on this endless cycle, to keep yourself and your lineage in this cycle of never creating, always choosing confusion over clarity, to sit there and neglect the responsibility of life. And so everyone talks about accountability. Everyone talks about responsibility. But the universal grand scheme of it all reflects in your behavior. In your behave, your behavior is going to reflect what the fuck you'll have. And so most of you guys, you look in the mirror and you're like, why the fuck am I this shit? And why the fuck is he that? And why the fuck can he have that? And why the fuck is this person having more than me? And am I lesser than this individual? And here you remain in this safety net of insecurity, now limiting others because you feel so limited and you feel like you can't escape. You have to understand that the reason you feel stuck is because you are not in alignment with what the fuck you need to be. And so then we understand that the option for change was never gone. It was always there. And the option for change, the option for betterment and growth is what is going to make God proud. And when God is proud, this is where you begin to change. This is when you begin to receive. Most of you guys, you think that God is going to love you unconditionally. But when you jerk off the port and he has to sit there and be aware of that shit, when God has to now be omnipotent and now he has to see what the fuck his creation is doing through the reflection of its internal world, reflected through your negative behavior, reflected through your porn addiction, vape addict, and weed escapism, reflected through the low tiers of existence that you perpetuate on an endless cycle until you fucking die a bitch. Remember that God is omnipotent. And the universe is very fair. What you put out is what you're going to receive. And so you guys wonder why you receive nothing. Well, look what you put out. And so this fake of conformity, no. The only truth and the only kindness is the way you treat yourself. And the way you treat yourself is like a low-level piece of shit bitch. And so what you have to do, again, is look in the mirror and ask yourself, was that what the fuck you were born to be? And then you come to the conclusion that it's fucking not. And then here's where you die a bitch. And then here's where the cycle of your lineage being bitches perpetuates. And so you're either going to make the choice to put down porn, go after your fucking goal like a fucking primordial God, demanding what the fuck he needs from life and doing everything through himself to rearrange his internal infrastructure and to develop and integrate a higher construction within his psyche, to construct a higher quality individual through the higher quality aspects and traits he needs to integrate into his site, his construction site within his mind, to disintegrate the lower qualities and then allow this construction to reflect in the external world through his behavior. And then this behavior is what you will have, because behave is what you will have. Behave. Very fucking simple. All of you guys live in a massive state of confusion, delusion, and protrusion of negative habits. So do your soul a favor, look in the mirror and confront that bitch before you die that shit. Peace.